You've asked?
Doing audio recording.
And have you asked?
Yes, I asked Father Dave.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to field Father Dave and John Shipton. We'd like to welcome John. It's a privilege to have him here. I'm sure everyone feels the same. And Father Dave will be fielding questions from the audience today. So if you could just put your hand up when you want to ask something, and if people could just keep it to a question and not long statements, so everyone can get through asking. So shall we begin?
I think we doesn't seem to mention anything about Australia's
No,
role. What is Australia's role?
What is Australia's
What's Australia doing to...
yeah.
Well, there was no mention at any point in the film about Australia's role.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
What is Australia doing? It has done.
I think bugger all, isn't it?
Under Malcolm Turnbull and James Rickettson's here had some experience of being locked up for espionage in Cambodia. Under Malcolm Turnbull, Julie Bishop.
Could you speak up, please?
Under Malcolm Turnbull, Julie Bishop raised Julian's matter with Secretary of State Jeremy Hunt in London. They were evasive, not interested really. So that's, a week later, Julie Bishop raised Julian's matter in Sacramento with Secretary of State Pompeo. He replied, "We're not interested in talking about that." So, in the case of Julie raising it with Hunt in London, they had a presser after where Hunt said, "We can't do anything, this person faces serious charges." At that time, there were no charges. But what distinguishes that is that no Australian politicians or editors came to Julie's defence, being embarrassed in a presser with Jeremy Hunt in London as notable. But that's the only positive contribution the Australian government has made. For the rest of it, they're complicit. If you don't do anything, things go the way they, as you can see. So if they don't do anything, that means they're supporting or just writing.
Thanks. Greg Tingle, sports agent. In plain terms, was it when those couple of Reuters journalists were killed as part of the collateral whatever terminology we want to use, obviously that was a very serious international incident. If you can disclose to us, was there one or two other, if you want to say, telltale signs or signals that like big trouble was brewing and that they were going after, in plain terms, Julian earlier than that, and that was an opportune moment to sort of go in after that international incident was screened through newsrooms in collaboration and through the internet and so on? Or was there a couple of incidents before that where it may have appeared that they were definitely going to take action against WikiLeaks and Julian? If you can tell us a little bit about that history, please.
Yeah, I'll answer that question in a different way, if you don't mind, and give you a better and a broader insight into the nature of Julian and Christian and WikiLeaks generally. At the time when you saw that video, Kristen flew to Baghdad and to Sadr City and negotiated entry to Sadr City. Sadr City is very in those days, extremely dangerous place. He went to give names to the dead. All those people, you know, you saw slaughtered, had families, and brothers and sisters, children, wives. They only managed to find two names, the Reuters, the journalists. The dispatch officer is an Australian who dispatched those journalists that day. He now lives in Tasmania, extremely unwell, one depression episode following another. That is a human dimension to WikiLeaks. And Julian and Kristen's courage and Julian and Kristen's understanding. Every little town we go to in Australia has a memorial obelisk, and on that obelisk are the names of the dead who died in the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. In Washington DC, there's a very long wall. It's the names of the American dead who perished in Vietnam, 60,000 of them. So it's really important to name the dead. And that brief story gives you an insight into the compassion that exists within WikiLeaks. James Ricketson, who's just there, wrote while he was banged up in jail, espionage charges, 170 prisoners in a room this size here. This man experienced that, he's there. His witness wrote to Julian and saying, you know, can you do anything to help? And within a couple of days, Julian, although he's in a similar situation, replied. So, anyway, that's
Can I correct one thing, and that is that Julian actually responded within 2 hours. And it wasn't 170 people, it was 140, and it was less than a quarter the size of this room. Anyhow, just a small detail.
Thanks.
Hi. Can I just mention one of the T-shirt I saw that my friend Steph actually read for me because I'm a bit slow in reading. Courage is courageous. I can't remember what the first bit say. Courage is in things. Courage is courageous. And I'd like to say that there are people who have shown some courage. I think Philip Adams has shown some. I think John Pilger has shown quite some courage, actually, in speaking up. The MEAA, I haven't heard very much from them, and I always remember back to the Ballabo 5 when they were killed, when I was part of the East Timor thing, that it was very hard to get people like Chris Warren to actually say, come to and speak for the Ballabo 5, or Greg Shackleton and his colleagues. And people said to me, well, it must be good because, you know, you've got all these journalists, you know, you have the journalists who are killed, you must have all the journalists on side. But was never the case in the East Timor thing, and I can't see it's the case here now. And it really should be, and we should be expecting the MEAA, among others, to really lift their game. We could all do it. We can all do much more, I think, and to be courageous, as Julian has been. So I think look, it's incredible that, as this gentleman said, that Australia did not show. We've got to change that. We've got to put pressure on them, I feel, to really get moving on this. We could save him. It's public pressure. It's not clever lawyers. It is public pressure, organised, that will save him. So, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. If you'd like to respond to that.
That's great. Has anybody else got questions?
I'm very interested in, I'd love to know what Albanese thinks about this situation, and I know you've got a connection there. I rang up the Labor Party and I said to them, well, why aren't you doing anything to help Julian Assange? And they said to me, well, we're working working out, under the, like, we're not letting anyone know what's going on, but we're working in the background. That's what they said to me, and I wonder if you had any insight on that, Father Dave.
No, it's a fair point. I mean, I had lunch with Anthony today. But that's the first time I've had lunch with him in about 6 months, so it's not as if we do that every week. But it was specifically
He's never answered my letters.
specifically to talk about Julian.
I'd love to.
Look, my approach with Anthony is to keep, we try and keep him up to date on what's happening with Julian. I don't see any point in trying to press him to give me a statement on this, will you take this position, because it's not going to, that's not the nature of our relationship, and I don't see the point sort of pushing for something false, which isn't really going to carry through. The thing which was very clear from the discussion we had today was that the Labor Party as a whole feels reasonably powerless at the moment, and they're feeling they're being silenced in, well, they are being silenced in Parliament at the moment, and unable to discuss anything. Which seems to me a real abuse of the democratic process, if you can even call it that. I sincerely believe that Anthony is deeply sympathetic to what's happening with Julian. Whether if the time comes and he's the new Prime Minister and he has the chance then to take a stand, I know that his hero is Scott Whitman, who is, there's a picture, and I mentioned that today, he's still got the picture there in his office. He's the only guy who ever did take a stand against the Yanks in this country, and he paid for it. Whether Anthony will have the courage to take the same stand, I think remains to be seen. But I think there is strong support within the party, and I think if he can be persuaded to give his personal support, he can make a difference. But I think time will tell.
I bumped
Could be
into
too
Tanya
late.
Kilsek.
Maybe so.
I bumped into Tanya Kilsek at Redfern Park, and I said, Julian Assange is a nice, kind person. And she said, well, a lot of people have told me that he's a horrible person. And that was from Tanya Kilsek.
She said that.
Yeah, she did. And she also said that, he should have faced the Swedish people over the rape charges. And I said, but he did. And then she said he shouldn't have skipped bail. All this sort of stuff. And I told her that all the governments were liars.
So Tony Burke actually squashed Barnaby's discussion about it in Parliament last week. Barnaby brought up Julian, and Tony Burke really closed it down. Did you talk about that today? Or?
Yes.
No.
Yes, that was brought up today, and Anthony's position on that was it was not an attempt to shut down discussion on Julian at all, but it was part of this tit for tat thing that was going on between the Liberal Party and Labor Party, where the Liberal Party was shutting them down every time they tried to speak, and in response they were trying to shut them down. It was just this playing politics. It had nothing to do with it.
Can they not play politics on the most important issue facing us?
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more, but I'd at least take some comfort that he was not certainly perceived by Anthony as being an anti-Julian thing at all.
Thanks.
It's a small point, but yeah, Greg?
I'm interested to know what the panel might feel as far as a strategy to help get the right and the just result for Julian and WikiLeaks. Often in many campaigns I've seen and sometimes been part of in the last 20 years, sometimes a campaign on a multi-front scale. So, okay, you've got your people power, got the media, then create the political will, protest, etc., and just keep going forward on a number of fronts, not just a one-dimensional. And then on the other person's point before about Mia,
Can we just...
Yeah, okay. I don't think Mia's going to be the answer. Sometimes it goes to legal, because when I was a member of Mia in the past for 15 years, then if something came up, they'd said, get independent legal advice. So what do you see as the main strategy going forward to help get the right... Do you see it being on a multiple fronts, or is there one strategy you think is going to be more effective than others to get the right result?
The point you make is important. It's got to take place at multiple levels. I remember one thing I learned from Mary Maguire, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in London, and John and I were together in Syria with Mary, and one thing she said to me was, Dave, you've got to work at both levels. You've got to do the political stuff, but you've got to work at the grassroots as well. You've got to get women's groups and ordinary people involved, because otherwise whatever happens at the top doesn't gel. you know, and that makes a lot of sense. My feeling is, and who am I to speak, my feeling is that the public opinion's turning because I think people are seeing through the whole Swedish sex prosecution bullshit stuff as now being just that. I'm sorry and surprised that Daniel Plibersek doesn't take that attitude. I get the feeling a lot of people now are saying it was just a ruse because it seems to have evaporated now. If she's saying that with integrity, you know, God bless her, but I get the feeling most people now are seeing that as having been a ruse and having, you know, a change of mind and heart about it, and I think that's one of the reasons why support for Julian is growing very strongly, I think, within our community. And I think that will be the sort of thing that people like Anthony and others will really be becoming aware of. And if we can sort of build a bit of a grassroots momentum.
But it's true what I said that she said to me.
Can you speak to the strategy, John?
No, I agree with her. Julian's fate's in our hands.
Yeah.
The energies rise up from us. They don't come down from them. They will do what we ask if we ask firmly and constantly, because they depend on us, their positions, and they depend on us to take government policy and institute it within ourselves. That's what the function of newspapers is really, is to get cohesion in the body politic so that government policies can be enacted and you'll pay your taxes and cross the lines. So they will obey us readily if we are firm and constant.
John, have a question. I know you've just done that big tour of Europe, and what was the general feeling, you know, in countries like Germany and Switzerland, Sweden? I know you went to Belgium. Can you speak to what they're doing there and what potentially we as a group of supporters could be doing here?
Germany is vigorous. They have weekly protests. Well, they call them manifestations. We call them actions. In 4 cities: Cologne, Frankfurt, Hamburg, and Berlin. I went to Cologne. It's a church group in Cologne, actually, that called Peace, something like that, in German. That group, about twice as many people as here, received more major newspaper coverage than the assembly we had of 250 people in the Bundestag with numerous MPs and MEPs. In Geneva, the canton, in Switzerland, the canton of Geneva passed a motion. Cantons are very powerful in Switzerland, not like here. So the canton passed a motion that the federation extend to Julian asylum. So we saw those people, and they're going to work further with the Basel canton, which is equally supportive of Julian. Also maybe a humanitarian visa may be offered, but we are going for asylum. In France, with strong support, 100, they're very funny, the yellow vests, they come over, 120 of them. They all pull up and start yelling with French accents, letting out. The only thing that sing this rhythmically. No extradition, the only right decision with French accent. I heard them. But they pull up a table, unfold the table, and a great big stack of croissants appears from each coffee. They're very funny, but great people. They were also came to Berlin. Oslo was great. Penn, the Writers Association, free word, and Frit Ord, free means free word, free speech. They are very supportive, a good group there. In Stockholm, we had a meeting in the parliament there. It's well attended, about 50 people, major news outlets, and 350 of us walked down the main street of Stockholm, with a policeman. Those things that you've just got two wheels and you stand on and they go on.
Oh, yeah.
The policeman goes along with those and says, oh, other way. And he speaks Spanish because a lot of these Chilean diaspora right around the world are very firm for us. I mean, very firm. Carla Campo, who you saw in the movie, has been there outside the embassy 2 days a week for 8 years. Very firm. The policeman, I said to the policeman, how did you speak Spanish to Sweden? He said, I don't like winter, so I go to Spain to teach golf. Winter. Anyway, it's a good, strong group there. Who else did I go? Dublin. So the two MEPs from Ireland, Mick Wallace and Claire Daly. Claire Daly is a fabulous speaker. Actually, when they put on a dinner for me to leave, and they both started